call it let to let, and there's various different names that you could use to describe this strategy. Let to rent is another one, let to multi-let, lease to multi-let, rent to rent, rent to let, and rent to multi-let. You know, these are just some of the names that other people use, and it's not an exhaustive list. It just describes the exact same thing, really. So how does let to let work? Well, very simply, you take a property. Now let's assume this property is a 3-bedroom property and it's got 2 reception rooms with a large kitchen diner downstairs and maybe a couple of bathrooms. The market rent, let's assume, is £550 per calendar month. So what we do is go to landlord and we say, Mr. Landlord, I see you've got this property up for rent, and every 12 to 18 months, do you find that the property is ever empty? The landlord might turn around and go, yes, obviously when people leave, I have a void period, maybe a couple of weeks, a month, once a year, or once every 18 months, and it's a little bit of a kind of, well, you're not making any money in that period of time, which is a bit of a hassle for the landlord, really, because you might make money for 12 months, but actually you're only making money for 11 months. And so you might go to the landlord and say, okay, Mr. Landlord, well, how about this? How about I guarantee the rent on your property for the next 5 years? And what I'll do, and obviously I'm guaranteeing rent, I'm taking a little bit of risk, so I'm going to pay you a little bit less than the market value. I'm going to pay you £500 a month instead of £550. So the landlord turns around and goes, well, what do I have to do? Well, basically, you need to sign a contract with me. And once you sign the contract, I will multi-let the property, and that's how I will make my money. But you have no risk, because I will make sure that your £500 a month is paid every single month, regardless of if I've got any or every room full. And you don't have to worry about that side of stuff. And the landlord is going to be very happy, and they're going to go, you know what, that's fantastic, I'd love to do that, because every 18 months I have to go and find a new tenant for this property, and sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes a bit longer, and on average, I'm probably losing more than 50 quid a month worth of rent by not having this property filled. So you sign the contract. Now generally there's 2 types of contract you want to be using. One is a lease contract, a commercial lease contract that you use in the residential market, or a management contract. As a general rule of thumb, you use a lease contract when there's no mortgage on the property, and a management contract when there is. Simple as that. And obviously you always go to solicitor when you're doing these types of deals. Do not do it over a kitchen table, because yes, it's going to save you a couple of £100. However, the repercussions down the line are probably not worth it, guys. So what happens next? Well, you take the property, and obviously you use the 3 bedrooms as bedrooms, and then you turn the downstairs reception rooms into bedrooms as well. So now you've got a 5-bedroom property, and let's just assume you can rent them for £300 each per calendar month. Now that's a total of £1,500 per calendar month from this one property. Now obviously at that £1,500 you're going to pay the landlord £500, so you're left with £1,000. And you do have to consider that in some cases you may have to pay the bills and do a little bit of maintenance. So, that might depreciate that cash flow a little bit. But how about this? So, out of the £1,000 you've got left over, you've got to cover some small amount of maintenance and some void periods and maybe some bills, depends on how you set it up. So you might be left with a minimum of £500 a month really on this particular property. How about that? You've got a property, you're getting £500 a month cash flow, and you don't need a massive deposit to get that. That's the power of this strategy, and that's why it's been coined as the strategy of 2013. Because you can get big cash flow without even owning or having to put a massive amount of money down. Now, I said I'd give you a little tip for the advanced people out there, people who are using this strategy, people who want to take it to another level. Now, a little tip is, at the point at which you sign that contract, you can go to the landlord and say, well, Mr. Landlord, I'm doing a 5-year contract with you. Would you be interested in selling this property to me, maybe at the end of that 5 years? And the landlord turn around and go, well, yeah, I'd consider it. Well, how about this, Mr. Landlord? I'll buy the property off you in 5 years at the end of this contract, and I'll give you today's value plus a little bit more. And the landlord may turn around and go, well, okay, that seems quite fair, to be honest. I was getting a bit fed up of renting it out because of all the people who kept coming and going and coming and going. And I thought about selling it, but obviously in this market it's kind of a little bit difficult to sell properties right now. And you just agree with the landlord, and what you can do is you can take this lease contract and turn it into something called a lease option. So what you do, you create an option, the ability to buy the property. So what an option is the right but not the obligation to purchase the property. So you have the right to purchase it, but you don't have to purchase it. You can give it back to the landlord at the end. Now obviously you need to be very upfront and clear with the landlord with exactly what the type of agreement is going into. Definitely you be using solicitors like we said earlier, because if you don't use solicitors, it only costs a couple of £100. It's not worth being taken to court over something because you haven't used a solicitor.